All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been hearing from a lot of you about, how you're trying to make your software development smoother, more efficient, and, really get a clear picture of how your teams are performing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a challenge a lot of organizations are facing.
Definitely. So in this deep dive, we're going to dig into two really interesting concepts that, well, honestly, they could be pretty transformative.
I think so, yeah. We're going to be taking a look at Harness's internal developer portal, IDP, and also their software engineering insights platform, or SEI.
Okay, so IDP and SEI, what are we talking about here?
Well, think of it this way. They're kind of like two sides of the same coin when it comes to, building better software more quickly.
Okay, I like that. Two sides of the same coin. So IDP, this internal developer portal, is that kind of like, I don't know, creating a super organized workshop for all your developers, like giving them one central place for all their tools, all the resources they need.
Yeah, that's a great analogy, a central hub for everything.
And then SEI, software engineering insights. That's where you get all the data, all the analytics that
Mhm.
tell you, okay, how efficient is this workshop running? Where are the bottlenecks? And how can we make things even better?
Exactly. Data-driven insights to drive improvement. And that's really our mission in this deep dive, right? We want to take a close look at both IDP and SEI, understand what they do, what their key features are, how they approach software development maybe a little differently, and most importantly, how they can work together to create a more efficient and insightful development environment, especially for you, our listeners. It's about taking your software development to the next level. And the insights that we're discussing today come from a document shared by Adeeb Valiulla
Yeah.
from the Harness Software Engineering Insights team, so we're really tapping into some valuable expertise here.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so let's start with this internal developer portal, the IDP. What is it at its core, and how could it help someone listening who's, really focused on optimizing their development process?
All right, so at its heart, an IDP is about bringing order to what can often be, well, a pretty chaotic landscape in software development.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It can get messy.
It gets messy, lots of moving parts. So the IDP is this centralized platform, and it's designed to streamline the processes that can, just suck up so much developer time.
Hmm.
Imagine if your developers had one single, well-organized interface to access every tool, every document, every service they need. No more jumping around, no more searching endlessly.
Okay, yeah, I see that. But how does that centralization, like, how does that actually translate into benefits for someone who's, like our listener, who's trying to make their team more effective?
Well, there are a few key areas where an IDP can make a big difference. First off, it really aims to improve developer effectiveness. It smooths out those workflows. It tackles those frustrating bottlenecks. Think about how much time developers waste when they have to switch between different systems to find information or, request a new resource or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that constant context switching, it's a killer.
It's a huge drain on productivity. So an IDP can really cut down on that. It also centralizes access to the tools and documentation that your developers need.
Hmm.
So instead of having those resources scattered all over the place, maybe a wiki here, a shared drive there, you have everything in one easily discoverable place.
Okay, yeah, finding things quickly, that makes a lot of sense.
Right. Saves a ton of time collectively.
Yeah.
And then there's onboarding, which is always a challenge, right?
Mm.
Whether it's new team members or even rolling out new services. An IDP can automate and standardize those processes so you can get people up to speed and productive so much faster.
Oh, that's huge. Getting new developers up to speed quickly. I mean, that's a constant pain point for a lot of organizations.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just that.
Mm.
Because by providing these shared resources and this central hub for information, an IDP can also foster much better collaboration between your development teams. And finally, it helps enforce consistency across the board, because now you can ensure that everybody's adhering to those best practices and the established standards throughout your entire software development lifecycle.
So it's not just about making things easier, it's also about creating this like more standardized and efficient way of working. What are some of the features like within an IDP that actually make this happen? What makes it so efficient?
Okay, so a few key features really stand out. One of the big ones is self-service workflows. These essentially empower your developers to automate common tasks without having to rely on manual requests or wait on other teams. So things like provisioning a new database or spinning up a new service instance, they can do all that themselves automatically through the IDP.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, so instead of, submitting a ticket and waiting days for someone to get to it, a developer could use a self-service option within the IDP and have that database ready to go in minutes.
Wow. Yeah, that's a huge time saver.
It is. And studies have shown that developers can spend, a surprisingly large chunk of their time on these non-coding tasks. So self-service workflows can really free up a lot of that time, which directly impacts your delivery timelines, getting features out the door faster.
Okay, so less waiting around, more getting things done. What else?
Another really valuable feature is the central software catalog. This is essentially a searchable inventory of all your software components, your APIs, your services. It's all there.
Okay, and what does that do for you?
Well, it prevents different teams from accidentally building the same thing multiple times, which, believe it or not, happens more often than you'd think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a surprisingly common problem, and it can be really costly in terms of wasted effort and resources.
I guess I hadn't really thought about it that way.
So the central software catalog helps you avoid that redundancy. You can leverage existing components, and that can speed up your development significantly. Then you've got scorecards. These are kind of like a health check for your services. They can track things like adherence to security best practices. Are you following coding standards? Are you meeting operational metrics like uptime? You get this great visibility into the health and compliance of your services. And it encourages teams to follow those established guidelines. And then another crucial feature is extensibility through plugins. A good IDP will let you integrate with your existing infrastructure and tools through a library of plugins, so you can adapt it to your specific needs without having to completely overhaul your setup.
Right, you want something that fits into your existing workflow, not something that forces you to change everything.
Exactly. And last but not least, you have a unified search function. This may seem small, but it's incredibly powerful. Being able to quickly find services, APIs, documentation, even team contacts, all within one platform, that can save your developers a ton of time and frustration. No more digging through endless files and folders.
Yeah, we've all been there. Searching for that one crucial piece of information can take forever.
Exactly. So all of these features together, they really help create a more streamlined and efficient development experience.
Okay, so we've got this centralized platform, we've got all these great features that boost efficiency, but how does it all play out in the real world? What are some actual use cases for an IDP?
So let's look at a few examples. We talked about onboarding earlier. An IDP can really speed up that process because new team members get immediate access to everything they need, all the tools, the documentation, the workflows. It's all right there. So they can become productive much faster. If your team is growing, this can be a game changer. And then there's the whole issue of centralizing technical knowledge. Instead of having this critical information scattered across, wikis and documents and just stuck in people's heads, an IDP creates this single source of truth. So it's so much easier for developers to find what they need, which means less context switching, better focus, and ultimately higher efficiency.
It sounds like it eliminates a lot of distractions and helps developers stay in the flow.
Exactly. And think about all those repetitive tasks that developers often have to deal with. An IDP can automate a lot of that so they can focus on the more complex, more interesting work, the stuff they're really good at. And we talked about scorecards earlier. Those provide valuable insights into project maturity and quality so you can see what's working well and where you might need to make improvements.
So it's not just about identifying problems, it's also about having a mechanism for continuous improvement.
Exactly. And then finally, by establishing these standardized processes within the IDP, organizations can really align their development efforts with their overall business goals. So everyone's working towards the same objectives in a consistent and efficient way, which ultimately delivers more business value.
Okay, so the IDP sounds like a really valuable tool for streamlining the development experience. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about software engineering insights, or SEI. What exactly is this, and what problem is it trying to solve?
So SEI, as we mentioned before, it's this comprehensive analytics platform, and its primary focus is on giving you deep, actionable insights into your software development and engineering practices. It does this by collecting and analyzing tons of data with the goal of helping you measure and improve key things like your code quality, developer productivity, and your overall engineering excellence.
Okay, so if the IDP is about making the how of development more efficient, SEI is about understanding how well you're developing and then using that data to figure out where you can improve.
Yeah, you got it. It's about making data-driven decisions in an area that can sometimes feel a little bit, based on gut instinct.
Right, a little bit too subjective sometimes.
Exactly. And that's the real value of SEI. It gives you this visibility, this data-backed understanding of how your team is performing. So you can move away from guesswork and make the changes that will actually have an impact.
All right, so what are some of the features within SEI that make this happen? What kind of data are we talking about?
So one of the fundamental things SEI does is track DORA metrics.
DORA metrics. Remind me what those are again.
Sure, so DORA, it stands for DevOps Research and Assessment. And they've identified these 4 key metrics that are really strong indicators of how healthy your DevOps practices are and how well your software delivery is performing overall. Those metrics are deployment frequency, lead time for changes, change failure rate, and mean time to recover. By tracking these, you get a really good high-level overview of your team's efficiency and stability.
Okay, so it's a way to see, like, the big picture of your development process.
Right. And research has actually shown that teams that perform well on these DORA metrics, they tend to have much better business outcomes overall. So it's not just about engineering, it actually impacts the bottom line.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about, making developers happy, it's about making the business more successful.
Exactly. But SEI goes beyond just those high-level DORA metrics. It also provides what are called developer insights, and these are much more granular reports that focus on individual and team workflows.
Okay, so a more detailed view.
Right. So you get things like PR lead times, that's how long it takes for a pull request to get merged. You see review collaboration patterns, how much rework is happening on code, how many days people are actually coding, the density of comments in the code, even the size of code changes.
Wow, that is granular.
It is. But all of these detailed metrics can give you really valuable insights into how efficiently your developers are working and where there might be bottlenecks in your process.
Okay, I see that. So if you see, like, consistently long PR lead times, maybe that tells you need to improve your code review process or something.
Exactly. And then there are sprint insights, which are really valuable for teams that are following agile methodologies.
Right. A lot of teams are doing agile these days.
Most teams are, yeah. So SEI can measure things like your commit to done ratio, which is how much of the planned work actually gets completed. You see the degree of scope creep during a sprint, the team's velocity, how predictable your delivery is, even things like how accurately your Jira board reflects reality.
Okay, so it's about helping teams not just plan better, but also to reflect on their process and make it better.
Exactly. And SEI also places a big emphasis on business alignment. It analyzes how your engineering effort is being invested and helps you make sure that that effort is directly aligned with your business goals.
Right. Because at the end of the day, it's about delivering value to the business.
Absolutely. And finally, SEI offers something called Trellis scores. These are personalized development feedback and performance metrics for individual developers. So it's a great tool for supporting growth and improvement within your team because each developer can see how they're contributing and where they might be able to improve their skills.
It's like a personalized report card for each developer.
In a way, yeah. So you can see, SEI paints a very comprehensive picture of your development performance, from that high-level view down to the individual developer contributions.
Okay, I see that. So who's using SEI? Like, what kind of organization would benefit from this platform?
So SEI is really for any organization that is serious about measuring and continuously improving their software development. If you want that concrete data to inform your decisions, to track the impact of the changes you're making, SEI is for you.
So if our listeners really focused on improving code quality, boosting developer productivity, SEI could be a really valuable tool for them.
Absolutely. And it's also a great tool for engineering leaders because it gives them the insights they need to make informed decisions, to optimize their team's performance, and really lead effectively.
Okay, so we've taken a good look at both IDP and SEI individually, but let's bring it all together now. What are the key differences between them? And maybe more importantly, how can they be used together to create a bigger impact?
Yeah, that's the key question, right? So the fundamental difference in focus is that the IDP, it's all about streamlining and centralizing the daily work that developers do. It's about making their day-to-day tasks more efficient, removing friction, giving them what they need when they need it. SEI, on the other hand, it analyzes those processes. It provides the data and insights into how well those processes are working, how good the quality is.
So one is about optimizing the doing, and the other is about measuring and understanding the results of that doing.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Their scope is a little different too. The IDP is focused on the developer experience, making onboarding smooth, providing easy access to tools and information. SEI has a broader scope. It looks at code quality, productivity, delivery speed, all of those things through metrics and analytics.
Okay, and their approach is different too, right?
Absolutely. The IDP is all about automation, automating repetitive tasks, standardizing processes so you reduce that manual effort and boost efficiency. SEI is about data-driven insights. Those insights that inform the decisions you make and guide the improvements to the processes that the IDP is managing and executing. So one is automating, the other is illuminating.
Okay, that makes sense. And who are the main users of each platform? Who are they designed for?
Well, the IDP is really designed for developers. It's the tool they use every day to access resources and do their work more efficiently. SEI, while it provides insights for teams, it's often targeted more at engineering leaders, managers, people who are responsible for performance and making strategic improvements.
So developers are in the IDP every day, and the leaders are using SEI to get that big picture view and figure out where to make improvements. But how do these two platforms actually work together? Where's the synergy?
That's where it gets really interesting. Because even though they have different purposes and different users, they create this really powerful feedback loop when they're used together. Think of it this way. SEI is like your diagnostic tool. It measures the current state of your engineering effectiveness. It tells you where your bottlenecks are, where your code quality might be slipping, where your cycles are taking too long. And then the IDP gives you the tools and the infrastructure to actually improve those things, to address those bottlenecks that SEI has highlighted.
Okay, so it's this constant cycle of measure, analyze, and then improve.
Exactly. You get this continuous feedback loop, and it can make a huge difference in your overall performance.
Can you give us a specific example of how this might work in practice?
Sure. Let's say SEI is tracking your DORA metrics, and it shows that your deployment frequency is lower than you'd like it to be. That's a key insight from SEI. So then you can use the IDP to address that. Maybe you create some more robust self-service deployment workflows within the IDP so developers can release code more quickly and easily. You can even take those DORA metrics from SEI and display them right in the IDP, maybe on a team dashboard, so everyone can see the impact of their work and the progress you're making.
Okay, so you're giving developers that direct feedback, showing them how their work is contributing to the overall goals.
Exactly. And by using these two platforms together, you can really achieve a much higher level of efficiency, better code quality, and just overall productivity in your development process.
So to sum it up for our listeners, the Harness Internal Developer Portal, or IDP, that's your key to helping your developers work more efficiently, giving them that centralized platform, automating those tedious tasks. And then Harness Software Engineering Insights, or SEI, that gives you the data and insights you need to understand and improve your development practices.
And while they have separate purposes and different users, they're really most powerful when they're used together.
Yeah.
You get this cycle of measurement, improvement, and streamlined workflows.
So as you're thinking about how to improve your team's productivity and the quality of your software, ask yourself, how could you use elements of an IDP and SEI to really make a difference? What are the bottlenecks you're facing right now that you could address with a more centralized, data-driven approach?
It's about being proactive, using data to guide your decisions, and creating a development environment that is both efficient and effective.
Absolutely. Well, we hope this deep dive has given you a better understanding of the power of both IDP and SEI.
And if you have any more questions or you want to explore how these solutions could work for your organization, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.